Chandogya Upanishad Om. Let my limbs and speech, prana, eyes, ears, vitality, and all the senses grow in strength. All existence is the Brahman of the Upanishads. May I never deny Brahman, nor Brahman deny me. Let there be no denial at all. Let there be no denial at least from me. May the virtues that are proclaimed in the Upanishads be in me, who am devoted to the Atman, may they reside in me. Om. Peace. 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 One should meditate on the syllable Om, the Ujjhata, for one sings the Ujjhata, beginning with Om. Of this, the explanation follows. The essence of all these beings is the earth. The essence of the earth is water. The essence of water is vegetation. The essence of vegetation is man. The essence of man is speech. The essence of speech is Rik. The essence of Rik is Saman. The essence of Saman is Ujjhata. The syllable Om, which is called Ujjhata, is the quintessence of the essences, the supreme, deserving of the highest place and the eighth. Which one is Rik? Which one is Saman? Which one is Ujjhata? This is being considered now. Speech alone is Rik. Prana is Saman. The syllable Om is Ujjhata. Speech and prana, the sources of Rik and Saman, taken together form a couple. This couple is joined together in the syllable Om. Whenever a couple come together, they, indeed, fulfill each other's desire. He who meditates upon this syllable as Ujjhata, knowing it thus, as the fulfiller, verily becomes a fulfiller of all the desirable ends. That verily is the syllable of assent, for whenever one assents to a thing, one says only Om. Assent alone is prosperity. He who meditates upon this syllable as Ujjhata, knowing it thus, as endowed with the quality of prosperity, verily becomes one who increases all the desirable ends. With this does the threefold knowledge proceed, because, with Om does one cause to listen, with Om does one recite, with Om does one sing aloud. For the worship of this syllable, with its own greatness and essence, the Vedic rites are performed. He who knows it thus and he who does not know, both perform actions with it. For knowledge and ignorance are different, in their results. Whatever is performed with knowledge, faith, and meditation becomes more effective. Up to this truly is the explanation of, the greatness of, this syllable Om. Once upon a time the gods and the demons, both descendants of Prajapati, were engaged in a fight. In that fight, the gods performed the rites of the Ujjatir priests, resolving, with this we shall defeat them. Then they meditated on, the deity of, prana connected with the nose, as Ujjhata, the demons pierced it with evil. Therefore with it, the nose, one smells both the fragrant and the foul, for it has been pierced with evil. Then they meditated on, the deity of, speech as Ujjhata, the demons pierced it with evil. Therefore with it one speaks both truth and untruth, for it has been pierced with evil. Then they meditated on, the deity of, eye as Ujjhata, the demons pierced it with evil. Therefore with the eye one sees both the sightly and the unsightly, for it has been pierced with evil. Then they meditated on, the deity of, ear as Ujjhata, the demons pierced it with evil. Therefore with the ear one hears both the pleasant and the unpleasant, for it has been pierced with evil. Then they meditated on, the deity of, mind as Ujjhata, the demons pierced it with evil. Therefore with the mind one thinks both good and evil thoughts, for it has been pierced with evil. Then they meditated on the prana in the mouth as Ujjhata. The demons came in clash with it and were destroyed, just as a lump of clay is destroyed, striking against a hard rock. Thus it is that the prana in the mouth has not been destroyed and is pure. Even as a lump of clay striking against a hard rock is destroyed, so will he be destroyed who wishes to do evil to one who knows this, the purity of prana, or who, actually, injures that knower, for he is like a hard rock. With this prana in the mouth one discerns neither sweet smell nor foul, for it is free from sin. What one eats or drinks through this, even with that he maintains the other pranas. And not finding this at the time of death, the prana in the mouth and its dependents depart, and thus indeed one opens the mouth at the time of death. Angaras meditated on that prana as Ujjita. The sages consider this alone as Angirasa, which is the essence of the limbs. So Brihaspati meditated on prana as Ujjita. The sages consider this alone as Brihaspati, for speech is great and this prana is its lord. So Ayajya meditated on prana as Ujjita, identifying it with himself. The sages consider this alone as Ayajya, for it goes out of the mouth. Baka, the son of Dalba, knew it thus. So he became the Ajatir singer of the sacrificers dwelling in Namasa. For their sake he sang to fulfill their desires. He who knows it thus and meditates on the Ujjita as the syllable Om, looking upon it as prana, certainly becomes the singer, and procurer, of the desired objects. This is the meditation with reference to the body. Now the meditation, on the Ujjita, with reference to the gods is described. One should meditate on him who gives heat, that is the sun, as Ujjita. Verily, when he rises, he sings aloud for the sake of all creatures. When he rises, he dispels darkness and fear. Verily, he who knows the sun as being endowed with these qualities, becomes the dispeller of darkness and, the consequent, fear. This prana in the mouth and that sun are the same. This is warm and that is warm. People call this Svara, that is going, and that Svara and Pratyasvara, that is going and coming. Therefore one should meditate on this prana and that sun as Ujjita. Now, verily one should meditate on Vyana as Ujjita. That which one breathes out is prana and that which one breathes in is apana. The junction of prana and apana is Vyana. That which is Vyana, even that is speech. Therefore, one utters speech while one neither breathes out nor breathes in. That which is speech, even that is Rik. Therefore while one neither breathes out nor breathes in, one pronounces the Rik. That which is Rik, even that is Saman. Therefore, while one neither breathes out nor breathes in, one sings the Saman. That which is Saman, even that is Ujjita. Therefore, while one neither breathes out nor breathes in, one sings the Ujjita. Therefore whatever other actions require strength, such as the kindling of fire by friction, running a race towards a goal, the bending of a strong bow, are all performed, while one neither breathes out nor breathes in. For this reason one should meditate on Vyana as Ujjita. Now, one should meditate on the syllables of Ujjita, namely, the syllables ut, gi, and tha. Prana is ut, because through prana one arises. Speech is gi, because speech is called word, jira. Food is tha, because upon food all this is established, stidam. Heaven is ut, the sky is gi, the earth is tha. The sun is ut, the air gi, the fire, tha. The Samaveda is ut, the Yajurveda gi, the Rigveda tha. For him, speech yields the milk which is the benefit of speech. And he becomes rich in food, and an eater of food, who knows thus and meditates on the syllables of Ujjita, namely, ut, gi and tha. Now follows the fulfillment of wishes. One should meditate on the objects contemplated. One should reflect upon Saman by means of which one proceeds to sing the statra. One should reflect upon the Rik in which that Saman occurs, upon the sage by whom it is intuited and upon the deity to whom he proceeds to pray. One should reflect upon the meter in which he proceeds to sing a statra, and he should reflect upon the hymn with which he proceeds to sing it. He should reflect upon the quarter, of heaven, towards which he proceeds to sing a statra. Lastly, having thought about himself, he should sing a statra reflecting upon his desired object, avoiding all faults. Very quickly will be fulfilled for him the desire, desiring which he may sing the statra, desiring which he may sing the statra. One should meditate on the syllable Om, the Ujjita, for one sings the Ujjita beginning with Om. Of this the explanation follows. Verily, the gods, being afraid of death, took refuge in the three Vedas. They covered themselves with the metrical hymns. Because they covered themselves with these, the metrical hymns are called chandas. Just as a fisherman would see a fish in water, so did Death observe the gods in the rites connected with Rik, Saman, and Yajus. They, too, knowing this, arose from the Rik, Saman, and Yajus, and entered the Svara, the syllable Om. Verily, when one learns the Rik, he loudly pronounces Om. It is the same with Saman and with Yajus. This syllable Om is indeed Svara, it again is immortality and fearlessness. Having entered into Svara, that is having meditated, the gods became immortal and fearless. He who worships this syllable knowing it thus, enters this syllable, the Svara, which is immortality and fearlessness. And having entered it, he becomes immortal by that nectar, by which the gods became immortal. Now, that which is Ajita is verily Pranav, and that which is Pranav is Ajita. The yonder sun is Ajita and also Pranav, for he moves along pronouncing Om. To him, the sun itself, I sung, therefore you are my only son, thus said Kausataki to his son. Reflect upon the Ajita as the rays of the sun, then surely, you will have many sons. This is the meditation with reference to the gods. Now, is the meditation, with reference to the body, one should meditate on him who is this prana in the mouth, as Ajita, for he moves along pronouncing Om. To him, the prana itself, did I sing, therefore you are my only son, thus said Kausataki to his son. I shall get many sons, thinking thus, sing praise to the Ajita as the manifold pranas. Now, that which is Ajita, is verily Pranav, and that which is Pranav, is Ajita, so one should think. As a result of it, even if he chants wrongly, he rectifies it by the act done from the seat of the Hotra priest. Brahma expounded this to Prajapati. Prajapati to Manu, and Manu to his descendants. He who has read the Veda according to the prescribed rule, in the time left over after performing his duties to the teacher, he who after having come back from the teacher's house, settles down in his household, continues the study of the Veda in a clean place, and has virtuous sons and disciples, he who withdraws all his senses into the Atman, who practices non-injury to all beings except in places specially ordained, he who behaves thus throughout his life reaches the world of Brahman and does not return again, he does not return again. Om. Let my limbs and speech, prana, eyes, ears, vitality, and all the senses grow in strength. All existence is the Brahman of the Upanishads. May I never deny Brahman, nor Brahman deny me. Let there be no denial at all, let there be no denial at least from me. May the virtues that are proclaimed in the Upanishads be in me, who am devoted to the Atman, may they reside in me. Om. Peace. 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 Meditation on Om. One should meditate on the syllable Om, the Ajita. Of this, the explanation follows. This leaves us little doubt as to what the author, or authors, of the Chandogya Upanishad consider the subject of prime importance, meditation on Om. Ajita is the technical, ritual term for Om when it is sung aloud in Vedic recitation. So in the subsequent verses I am just going to put Om wherever Ajita occurs. The supreme essence, the essence of man is speech. The essence of speech is the hymns of the Rig Veda. Their essence is the hymns of the Sama Veda. The essence of the Sama Veda is Om. That which marks human beings out from the lesser forms of evolution is the power of Vak, of symbolic, creative speech. Most animals make some kinds of sounds that indicate their feelings, but only humans have symbolic words that recount and stimulate both thought and behavior. This is the power of logos spoken of in Greek philosophy and Eastern Christian writings. It is not just a simple trait, but a virtual intellectual ocean that separates us from other sentient beings on earth. It is, as said, a product of evolution, and skill in speech is the mark of an evolved human being, though the most important ability is that of creative thought/conceptualization. Vak is what makes us human. The highest form of speech is that of the hymns of the Rig Veda that were revealed in meditation untold thousands of years ago to the Vedic rishis, seers. The highest of those hymns were collected into the Sama Veda, whose text is marked, pointed, for devotional singing. And the supreme essence of the Sama Veda hymns is the single syllable, Om. In many texts it is stated that to intone Om is to recite all the Vedic hymns. The self within the self, who is to be realized by the purified mind and the illumined consciousness, whose form is light, whose thoughts are true, who, like the ether, remains pure and unattached, from whom proceed all works, all desires, all odors, all tastes, who pervades all, who is beyond the senses, and in whom there is fullness of joy forever, he is my very self, dwelling within the lotus of my heart. Rejoicing in the self, it can reasonably be felt that the Bhagavad Gita is more important than the Upanishads because it not only embodies their teachings, it provides practical advice for their personal realization. This is also my opinion, but the Upanishads are certainly indispensable for us who seek the goal. One of their most wonderful aspects, and one that I have never heard mentioned in my nearly half a century of Sanatana Dharma study, is their marvelous ecstatic exulting in the wonder and glory of the self. Just reading such joyful declarations produces a powerful stirring of the will towards perseverance in the divine search. This verse is one such rapturous affirmation and well worth our savoring carefully. The self, who? The self is a who, not a what. That is, the self is a conscious person, or more accurately a person who is consciousness itself. Of course, the self, individual or universal, is not the ego, a conditioned personality, but a changeless consciousness. It is certainly true that the self is not personal or even a person in the way we know those terms. It is a transcendent reality, of one essence with the absolute reality. But it is conscious and it is real. This is bedrock truth. Countless ages of realization are behind this principle. We may not understand it fully or flawlessly, but that is only our human limitation. It is eternal truth. That is the truth being presented in this verse, a truth that brings profound joy to those who realize it. It is said that Shiva sits immersed in the self, but that sometimes he arises and dances, singing, "Oh, who I am, who I am," is to be realized. We realize the self, we do not find it because it is ever present, it is us. That is, we enter into and experience our eternal nature. We have always had it, but have lost touch with it. There is nothing to reach out for, rather we need to regain perception of it. It is more here and now than anything else, because it is the here and now. It is only a matter of seeing, of experiencing it, and not as an object but as the subject. Ultimately, it is beyond description, but what can be said is glorious. By the purified mind. Mind does not mean the sensory mind, manas, or even the intellect, buddhi, but the principle of consciousness itself, prajna. The simile of a mirror is very apt here. Covered with thick dust and dirt, the mirror is no more than a lump of earth or a slab of wood. But the more the debris is removed, the more things are seen on its surface, until it shines forth in its reflective nature. In the same way our consciousness, or rather the glass that covers it, must be cleansed so there is no obstruction to our perception of the self. Satyakama. Now we come to a very interesting part of the Chandogya Upanishad, which consists of stories of seekers who came to know Brahman. A feature that will seem odd to Western readers is the instruction of some of the seekers by animals and even by the forces of nature. Any explanation I might give is purely speculative and not worth much, but here they are. 1. The accounts are simply symbolic parables, the animals and nature forces symbolizing powers within the yogis. 2. These are not actual events, but dreams which the yogis had. This, too, is a matter of symbolism. 3. They are intuitions occurring to the yogis as they pondered the animals and the natural forces, wanting to understand the ideas behind them, for the universe is entirely ideational in nature. I do not think that any of these are very satisfactory, so I prefer to just focus on the spiritual teaching and let the rest go by, the way we crack the shell and throw it away, keeping the nut inside which is nourishing. One thing is evident, though, the pure-hearted will be instructed by other means if human teachers fail to do so, or even be available. Truthfulness, satya, a foundation of yoga, is taught here in the story of Satyakama. The way across the boundary and that world of Brahman is reached by those who practice continence Brahmacharya. For the knower of eternal truth knows it through continence. And what is known as worship yajna, that also is continence. For a man worships the Lord by continence, and thus attains him. You cannot get more clear than this. Brahmacharya is the way to the realm of Brahman, Brahmaloka. Certainly, sexual continence is the core of Brahmacharya, but it is really self-restraint on all levels, discipline. This is it, there is no other way to qualify for union with Brahman than through Brahmacharya. Yoga is an essential for that union, but frankly the practice of yoga is worthless without Brahmacharya. The proof of that is the American and European yoga scenes. Nothing is coming of it spiritually, only profiteering and self-delusion. Brahmacharya is the necessary worship sacrifice to know God. As the beloved disciple wrote, every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself, even as he is pure. I John 3, why claim to follow Sanatana Dharma if the teachings of the Upanishads and the Gita are not followed, but ignored and despised degraded? But there is more. Liberation, what is called salvation, is really continence. For through continence man is freed from ignorance. And what is known as the vow of silence, that too is continence. For a man through continence realizes the self and lives in quiet contemplation. Perhaps I should explain a bit about this fulsome assurance that Brahmacharya will accomplish everything. We, like God, are incarnate in a field of energy which we are intended to evolve just as God evolves the cosmos. When the evolution is completed, that is enlightenment and liberation. This process requires the total application of the inner and outer powers, energies, of the individual, powers that are devastatingly dissipated through sensory experience, emotion, and desire, especially lust. It is like a machine that requires a certain amount of voltage, or an engine that cannot run without the right amount of fuel. This is a purely pragmatic proposition, having nothing to do with concepts of right, wrong, good, bad, or any kind of moral valuation. For example, sex is not dirty, it is destructive. Anything that diverts or dissipates the powers needed for evolution enlightenment is to be avoided. It is not a sin but a hindrance, a distraction. For this reason the intelligent, buddhik, yogi is at all times vigilantly disciplined, in other words, a brahmachari or brahmacharini. Those who do not wish to pay the price of enlightenment are free to pass it by. No one is under coercion. To seek freedom the yogi must be free in that decision, sankalpa, and in the requisite disciplines for success in seeking. The necessity for brahmacharya is an absolute. Forest dwellers, what people call dwelling in the forest aranyayanam, that is continence. This is the first sentence of Chandogya Upanishad 8:5:3. Most yogis have an inward pull to the forest life, to live in the midst of real nature away from the noise and poisons of city life as well as the noise and pollutions of human society. The Gita describes the yogi as remaining in solitude, alone, 6:10, and having distaste for crowds of men, 13:10. Whether this is a samskara or an intuition, it will be found in nearly all serious yogis. One of my best friends was constantly going out into the wilds and risking life and limb so he would meditate far from any other human being. I am not exaggerating about the risks he took. One time he was literally starving, and even wrote a note to anyone that might find his body, saying that it was his unwise ways that caused his death, and yoga should not be blamed. He had been taken into the wilderness by another man, but he had left his original camp and gone farther into the forest. So when the man came back after some weeks to check on him, he could not be found. As my friend was lying on the ground, preparing to die, suddenly that man came walking up and asked, "Where is that woman?" Hardly able to speak, my friend asked his own question, "What woman?" "That woman with the long black hair in the orange dress. If I hadn't followed her, I couldn't have found you." At first my friend was flummoxed, but then he reached in his pack for his photograph of Paramahansa Yogananda. "Is that the woman?" he asked, holding it out to the man. Yes, that's her, the man replied. The master certainly honored my friend's forest yearning, however impractical. Solitude is a matter of interior condition. The incredible Russian Orthodox saint, Saint John of Kronstadt, not only never slept, he was never alone more than 2 hours in 24. Yet a man who knew him very well said, Father John was always alone. In contrast are those that go miles away from any human being and take the whole world and its population right with them. The teaching of the Upanishad is that Brahmacharya is the way to accomplish true inner solitude and quiet. Immortality. In the world of Brahman there is a lake whose waters are like nectar, and whosoever tastes thereof is straightway drunk with joy, and beside that lake is a tree which yields the juice of immortality. Into this world they cannot enter who do not practice continence. For the world of Brahman belongs to those who practice continence. They alone enter that world and drink from that lake of nectar. For them there is freedom in all the worlds. Since Brahman is beyond materiality and even any kind of subtle name and form, these verses are speaking symbolically of the immortality bestowing effects of union with Brahman, which can only be effected by those that practice Brahmacharya. Shankara agrees with me in his commentary. The meaning is pretty obvious. Those who enter the ocean of Brahman and drink will be filled with bliss, made immortal with the immortality of Brahman, and will have access to all the worlds of relative existence and mastery in those worlds. Those who find the Absolute do not lose the relative, for the relative is a manifestation of the Absolute. The core idea, like the preceding verses, is the necessity of Brahmacharya. The astral body, the self Brahma told him, that which moves about in dreams, enjoying sensuous delights and clothed in glory, that is the self. That is immortal, that is fearless, and that is Brahman. Pleased with what he had heard, Indra again departed. But before he had reached the other gods he realized the uselessness of this knowledge also. True it is, he thought to himself, that this self is not blind when the body is blind, nor lame or hurt when the body is lame or hurt. But even in dreams it is conscious of many sufferings. So in this doctrine also I can see no good. In the conscious, waking state it is the physical body, including the physical brain, that dominates our consciousness, but in the dream state it is the astral body and brain that come into function and dominate our awareness. This astral body leaves the physical body at death, so it is usually mistaken for the spirit self by the various religions. But, as Indra realized, this cannot be if the definition of the self formulated by the ancient rishis of India is believed to be accurate. We must go a step higher. The causal body, the self. So he went back to Prajapati for further instruction. Prajapati now bade him live with him for another 32 years, and when the time had passed taught him, saying, when a man is sound asleep, free from dreams, and at perfect rest, that is the self. The self is immortal and fearless, and it is Brahman. Indra went away. But before he had reached his home, he felt the uselessness even of this knowledge. In reality, thought he, one does not know oneself as this or as that while asleep. One is not conscious, in fact, of any existence at all. The state of one in deep sleep is next to annihilation. I can see no good in this knowledge either. So once more Indra went back to Prajapati, who bade him stay with him yet 5 years. In dreamless sleep the causal body is dominant, and even in India there are people who try to identify it with the self, and equate the dreamless sleep state with the eternal state of the self. This is because of the extreme subtlety of that condition. Here, too, Indra's reasoning is as clear as it is inevitable. It is significant that Brahma only required a residence of 5 years this last time. Obviously Indra is so near the truth that a longer time of purification is not required. The self as it is, and when the time had passed, he made known to him the highest truth of the self, saying, this body is mortal, always gripped by death, but within it dwells the immortal self. This self, when associated in our consciousness with the body, is subject to pleasure and pain, and so long as this association continues, freedom from pleasure and pain can no man find. But as this association ceases, there cease also the pleasure and the pain. Rising above physical consciousness, knowing the self to be distinct from the senses and the mind, knowing it in its true light, one rejoices and is free. This is as inspiring as it is simple. Freedom and bliss, not mere pleasure, are the attributes of the self and of those who know the self. Therefore Brahma concluded his teaching of Indra with these words: the gods, the luminous ones, meditate on the self, and by so doing obtain all the worlds and all desires. In like manner, whosoever among mortals knows the self, meditates upon it, and realizes it, he too obtains all the worlds and all desires.